Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatiram Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Shruta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Shruta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 6, text number 13. 13. I think it's a verse. Tasyanugunan shlokan gayanti. That's a verse, right? Yeah. Yeah. The first line is not part of it. It's saying what they say. Oh, okay. Say that yourself. Okay. Tasyanugunan. Just the word for words. Shlokan gayanti. Aho bhuvaha sapta. Samudravatya Dvipeshu Varshesh Adipunyam Etat Gayanti Yatratya Jana Murare Karmani Bhadrani Avataravanti Tyasanugunan Shlok. Okay. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya Dvipeshu varsheshvadi punyametat Gayanti yatratya janamurare Karmani bhadranyavataраvanti Aho bhuva sapta sumadravatya Dvipeshu varsheshvadi punyametat Gayanti yatratya janamurare Karmani bhadranyavataраvanti Aho bhuvak sapta samudravatya Dvipeshu varsheshvadi punyametat Gayanti yatratya janamurare Karmani bhadranyavataраvanti Anybody else? Zoom land? Zoomland.
Aho Shapta Samudra Vata Vipeshu Varshesh Adipunnam Eta Gayanti Jatrata Janamurare Karmani Bhadrani Avataravanti.
Anybody else up there?
No, Prabhu. I'm the only one right now.
Okay, thank you, Tapas. Word for words. Tasya, of him, Lord Rishabdev. Anugunan, conforming to the instructions for liberation. Shlokan, verses. Gayanti, chant. Aho, oh. Bhuvaha, of this earthly planet. Sapta samudravatyaha, possessing 7 seas, Dvipeshu, among the islands, Varsheshu, among the lands, Adhi Punyam, more pious than any other island, Etat, this, Bharat Varsha, Gayanti, sing about, Yatra Tejana, the people of the tract of this land, Murare, of Murari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Karmani, the activities, Bhadrani, all auspicious, Avataravanti, in many incarnations such as Lord Rishabdev. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rishabhadev in this way. Oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands of lands, of which Bharat Varsha is considered the most pious. People of Bharat Varsha are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His incarnations as Lord Rishabhadev and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Bharata Bhumite Hoila Manusha Janmajar Janmashartaka Kori Kora Pura Upakar. As stated in this verse, Bharat Varsha is a most pious land. The followers of the Vedic literature understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His different incarnations, and they are privileged to glorify the Lord by following the instructions of Vedic literature. After realizing the glories of human life, such people should take up the mission to spread the importance of human life throughout the world. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The word Adhi Punyam indicates that there are certainly many other pious men throughout the world. But the people of Bharat Varsha are even more pious. Therefore, they are fit to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world for the benefit of all society, all human society. Srila Madhvacharya also recognizes the land of Bharat Varsha, Visheshad Bharate Punyam. Throughout the world, there is no question of Bhagavad Bhakti or devotional service, but the people of Bharat Varsha can easily understand the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, every inhabitant of Bharat Varsha can perfect his life by discharging Bhagavad Bhakti and then preaching this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, Kali Yuga is a very fallen age. It's described as it's an ocean of faults. And there's a verse, Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Hupaduta, that people in the age of Kali, they're short-lived, quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, and above all disturbed, always disturbed, and unlucky too, that's another one. And so as a result of the age of Kali, as a result of the influence of these qualities in people, the path of pure devotional service, there's many obstacles to achieving it, even starting it, what to speak of actually going through with it. And this is mentioned in verse 11, which Vijay Prabhu spoke on yesterday, that low-class people, due to their gross ignorance, introduce a system of religion that deviates from the Vedic principles. Following their own mental concoctions, they automatically fall down into the darkest regions of existence. So Prabhupada always mentioned that in Kali Yuga society, it's a society of cheaters and cheated. Because people in this age are, generally speaking, weak-minded, spiritually lazy, sometimes, a lot of the time, materially lazy too. But spiritually lazy and materially attached. And so they're very prone to accept many things which are against the Vedic principles. Like, for example, you see so many in India, so many bogus gurus. They come up and they speak, and also in America, too. That so many people they say things that people like to hear. Like you have this prosperity preaching in Christianity now that just pray to God, and when God, and then you can tell that you're getting the favor of God because you'd be getting a lot of money. So people like to hear this. And so, and of course, it also comes with, and if you're a part of our church, then you'll get the favor of God and you'll get a lot of money. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you send in regular donations. So people are misguided in this way, and these different philosophies, these different ideas, which obscure the path of devotional service, they're compared to crocodiles. For example, Gajendra, the pastime of Gajendra in the 8th canto. Gajendra was the king of the elephants, and one day he was sporting with some female elephants in the water in this river in the heavenly planets. Doing as elephants do, splashing water on each other and themselves and whatnot. And there was one crocodile who became very disturbed by this. He was irritated, and so what he did is he caught hold of Gajendra's, it's like Gajendra's leg, something like that. He caught hold of him. And so ultimately, Gajendra, he was a devotee in his past life, and he remembered a certain prayer that I suppose he would regularly recite in his past life. And so he recited this prayer, and what happened? Lord Vishnu came, and he killed the crocodile, and he rescued Gajendra. And so similarly, religious principles, real religious principles, are enacted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam. And he descends, Krishna himself descends as either himself or as an avatar to reestablish these principles of religion, of real religion. It's said in Bhagavad Gita, yada yada hi dharmasya glanyar bhavati bharataha abhutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamiham. That whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself, Krishna speaking. And he descends to reestablish the principles of religion. And he does this by paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkatam, by rescuing the sadhus and annihilating the demons, the miscreants. And he protects the sadhus, he rescues the sadhus by engaging in loving pastimes with them. These pastimes, they serve as the sustenance of the sadhus for the time to come, because they relish discussions of these pastimes, they relish the remembrance of these pastimes, etc. And so when the Lord descends to do all of this, he does it in Bharatvarsha, Bharatvarsha being India. And so in the 5th canto, chapter 19, verses 23 through 28, I won't read all of them, but they give some idea of the glories of Bharatvarsha. And it says here, A short life, this is verse 5:19-23. A short life in the land of Bharatvarsha is preferable to a life achieved in Brahmaloka for millions and billions of years, because even if one is elevated to Brahmaloka, he must return to repeated birth and death. Although life in Bharatvarsha in a lower planetary system is very short, one who lives there can elevate himself to full Krishna consciousness and achieve the highest perfection, even in this short life, by fully surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus one attains Vaikuntha Loka, where there is neither anxiety nor repeated birth in a material body. And then in verse 25 it says, Bharatvarsha offers proper land and circumstances in which to execute devotional service, which can free one from the results of jnana and karma. If one obtains a human body in the land of Bharatvarsha with clear sensory organs with which to execute the Sankirtan Yajna, but in despite of this opportunity he does not take to devotional service, he is certainly like a liberated forest animal that is careless and is therefore bound again by a hunter. Yes? This is translation. Yeah. Yeah. And then in verse 20, so the next verse it continues. In India, Bharatvarsha, there are many worshippers, in verse 28. Verse 28, we are now, this is the demigod speaking, we are now living in the heavenly planets undoubtedly as a result of our having performed ritualistic ceremonies, pious activities, and yajnas, and having studied the Vedas. However, our lives here will one day be finished. We pray at that time, if any merit remains from our pious activities, we may again take birth in Bharatvarsha as human beings, able to remember the lotus feet of the Lord. So Bharatvarsha is a very auspicious place, and actually, like as it's shown in this verse, the demigods they're praying to take birth in Bharatvarsha. And in the purport to that last verse, verse 28, Prabhupada says that you need more sukriti to be born in India than you do to be born in the heavenly planets. And this is because Bharatvarsha, India, it's a very auspicious place, because this is where the Lord engages in his pastimes when he comes to this world. And as a result, it creates a certain atmosphere which is very conducive to Krishna consciousness, to worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so one who is born there is very fortunate. And because the people who are born there, they're naturally pious. Prabhupada, he states that 99.9% of the Indian people, even simple village farmers and others who are neither educated nor sophisticated, believe in the transmigration of the soul, believe in past and future lives, believe in God, and naturally want to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative. So, yeah, it's a very auspicious place. And even despite how the culture there may be a little more degraded now due to the influence of Kali Yuga, due to the influence of Western society, still the vestiges of Vedic culture are there. And so people are still, naturally, they're still very pious there, actually. And I was in Dallas, and in Dallas we were distributing books at University of Texas at Dallas, and one Indian boy comes to the table and he says, he looks at the books and he says, yeah, I've heard of ISKCON, and he goes, and he asks me and Devavrata, he goes, so if I want to be a sadhu like you in ISKCON, like how do I do that? How do I become a sadhu like you? And there was a club at the campus, so he said, just come to the club and we can talk there and you can hear the kirtan and hear the talk. And so he came, and his name is Ambuj. And he came and he stayed for the kirtan, he stayed for the talk, he took prasadam. And we were talking a little bit more, and then we were kind of explaining some things to him, but eventually he just said, so if I want to leave my studies, if I would just want to leave my studies and drop everything to preach Hinduism, how do I do that? And so anyway, so people in India, they naturally have this kind of, this propensity, a lot of them, that they want to worship Krishna and live according to the Vedic principles. And so it's an amazing facility, actually. It's an amazing facility to be born in India, because you have a head start. I mean, even on a material level, the culture in India is much cleaner than here. Here, even from a young age, you're exposed to so many different abominable things. And so Balaram in his class on Wednesday was mentioning. He asked, why does a boss in a business or a factory or whatever, why does he get special facility? And Tyler answered the question. Tyler, what was your answer?
He has the most responsibility.
Yeah, because he has most responsibility. So, similarly, those born in Bharatvarsha in India, it's stated in the purport, Bharata bhumite holo manusha janma shartaka kori kora pora upakar, that one who has taken birth in Bharatvarsha, one who is born in India, should make his life successful and should work for the benefit of all other people. And so, of course, I'm speaking to largely a group of non-Indians here, except for our lovely Prakash. Non-Indians may think, oh, okay, that's awesome. I don't have to go out on Sankirtan. I could just stay at the temple and eat halva all day. I don't have to go out. Yeah, and then Prakash will go out and distribute books. But no, the point is that being born in Bharatvarsha, being born in India, it's a particularly conducive bodily arrangement. But ultimately, it's still a bodily arrangement. Indians aren't the only ones who are spirit souls and servants of Krishna. All of us are spirit souls. All of us are servants of Krishna. And so it's everybody's duty. It's everybody's duty to preach Krishna consciousness, to spread Krishna consciousness, and to work for the benefit of all other people. And what's the benefit of all other people? The benefit of all other people is to give them the holy name of the Lord. Because people in Kali Yuga, people in this world, they're natevidu svartakatinghi vishnum drashya yeva hir artamaninaha andhaya tandar upaniya manas te pisha tantram urudamni badha. They don't know that the goal of life and the purpose of their existence is to serve Krishna, to go back home, back to Godhead, and to serve Krishna eternally, because they're being misguided by blind men. This verse, it describes, it compares, the people in Kali Yuga, it compares them to blind men being led by another blind man. And what happens when a blind man is led by another blind man? You miss the right path. You miss the right path and you fall into a ditch. And so similarly, materially attached men, led by another materially attached man, it's described, they're bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, and they continue on again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. So people in this world, they're suffering like anything because they don't know Krishna. They don't know anything about what they're supposed to be doing. And they don't know that the purpose of this world is to reform themselves and then go back to Godhead. And they're accepting this world as absolute. And Krishna himself, he's trying so hard to bring the conditioned souls back. He gives us so many different chances. Like, for example, we're in the month of Kartik now. Kartik is like, you hear devotees always say that it's like a clearance sale for devotional service. And say, like, what is it? Anything you do during Kartik, it's multiplied by, you get 1,000 times the benefit of just anything you do in Kartik for Krishna. In the Skanda Purana, there's a verse that says that there's no sin that can't be purified by just offering a lamp during Kartik. And not even just offering a lamp, even if you light a lamp for somebody else, you can go back to Godhead just by lighting a lamp for somebody else. And I read a story, there was one mouse, and he was eating the ghee from the offered lamps in one in a Vishnu temple. And so this was his daily pastime. And so one day he was doing this, and the wick got stuck in his teeth. You know, mice, they kind of, they have buck teeth. It got stuck in his teeth, and it was still lit. And so And so it got stuck in his teeth, and so he's kind of flailing around, he's on fire, and ultimately this mouse dies. But the Lord saw this mouse, jumping up and down in front of him with this wick in his mouth, and he gave him the benefit of the doubt. He took it as, okay, this living entity was offering arti to me, and so the mouse went back to Godhead. So anyway, there's so many special concessions that Krishna gives, and also Ekadashis. Every Ekadashi, I feel like every Ekadashi you read the benefits of the Ekadashi, and it's like, yeah, if you just follow this Ekadashi, you'll get everything you want, and you just go back to Godhead. So anyway, Krishna's giving us so many chances. And in this particular Kali Yuga, the most special concession is made for us in the sense that Lord Chaitanya has come. And not only has Lord Chaitanya come and propagated the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan, but he's Krishna himself. The Yuga avatar is, generally speaking, Gaur Narayan. And Gaur Narayan, he propagates the Yuga Dharma, but in this particular Kali Yuga, Krishna himself has come in order to relish the love for himself as experienced by Srimati Radharani. And so the holy name that he gives in this particular Kali Yuga, it's Premanam Sankirtan. So it gives you the highest benefit of going to Goloka Vrindavan and achieving Krishna Prema, whereas in previous ages, the holy name can only get you as far as Vaikuntha. So in this particular Kali Yuga, and this happens only once every day of Brahma, there's 8.6 billion years. So in this particular Kali Yuga even, we're extremely fortunate. And we have every opportunity to engage in the Sankirtan movement and to achieve the perfection of life. And so as devotees of Lord Chaitanya, it's our duty to serve this mission and to expand this good fortune to everyone. Prithiviteyachi Jatanagaradi Gram, to every town and village. That's Lord Chaitanya's desire. And so, but in order to do that, like Prabhupada says in the purport, he says, thus every inhabitant of Bharat Varsha can perfect his life by discharging Bhagavad Bhakti and then preach this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. So we have to understand that we have to be purified, because we're not the ones preaching. Krishna and Prabhupada are preaching through us. And so we have to have a clean heart, like in the Gundicha Marjana pastime in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The purport of that pastime was that Krishna doesn't want to sit in a dirty place. And so we have to clean our heart so that Krishna will come and sit in our heart. And ultimately, when Krishna sits in our heart, he can speak through us. And so, yeah, we have to cleanse our heart, and we cleanse our heart by engaging in the process of sadhana bhakti, which means, hearing, chanting, reading Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada, there was a quote from, it was a conversation, I forgot, I think it was Umapati. He was speaking with Umapati. And he said that we have to preach to ourselves. And then when we preach to ourselves, we can get the enthusiasm to go out and preach to others. And specifically he was emphasizing reading his books. He said that without books, without reading, there's no life to the movement. And then he says, how long can one go on artificially saying Hare Krishna, Hare Bol? And so without that purification, without recharging our batteries, so to speak, by reading Prabhupada's books, by hearing the holy name, by chanting the holy name, we won't have the enthusiasm or the energy or the drive to go out and extend ourselves to others. Like Vaisheshika Prabhu, he always says that, he was speaking about book distribution, that book distribution, it's an overflow of our own ecstasy. That like we have to become ecstatic by reading Prabhupada's books and by engaging in this process of hearing and chanting. And then when that ecstasy overflows, that overflow is us going out and giving Krishna to others. And And so yeah, without that, it's impossible, because preaching, it's not like a material thing. It's not based on like material formulas. Vijay Prabhu always tells this story about the salesman. You told me the other day. Was he staying in the temple? Yeah, he was staying in the temple. He was a professional salesman staying in the temple. And so he said, okay, yeah, I worked as a professional salesman, so, I'd probably be good at book distribution. So Vijay Prabhu said, yeah, okay, yeah, you should, come out on books with me. You guys went to like the airport? Yeah, so you went to the airport. And so yeah, at the airport, this salesman, he was trying really hard. He was really, trying to speak to people, trying to sell them the books. But nobody was taking anything. And he looks over, and Vijay's like rocking out. The books are flying out of Vijay's bag. And the salesman, he asked Vijay, he says, what's going on? I'm a salesman. I can't believe it. I can't even sell one book, and you're giving out so many books. He goes, and then so Vijay asked me, he goes, well, have you chanted any rounds today? And he says, no. And then he says, well, have you read Prabhupada's books today? And he says, no. He goes, well, there you go. So anyway, so even if you have, some kind of charm, even if you're, very eloquent, still, if you don't have purity, if you yourself aren't feeling, ecstatic in Krishna consciousness, you won't be able to move people's hearts. So whatever lines or whatever eloquence, it only works when you have purity. And Prabhupada, he came to New York with nothing. He had some money, he had some books, and he was living in a closet practically with no facilities. He had to go somewhere else to cook, go somewhere else to bathe, and he was robbed. His tape recorder was stolen. And he went back to the port, to the docks, and he was asking when the next boat to India leaves. So Prabhupada, there were so many obstacles, and then he was living in the Bowery with that one, some guy, and he was just whacked out on LSD and tried to kill Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, he had so many obstacles, and for a year, nothing happened. He was just trying and trying and trying so hard for a year, and nothing happened. But despite all those obstacles, he prevailed because he had Krishna Shakti. He had purity, and through that purity, he had Krishna Shakti. So there's a verse, Kali Kalar Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tar Pravartan. This is the verse that Dravida Prabhu got from B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, saying how that was evidence, that was proof that Prabhupada was a Shakti Vesha avatar. So there's this phrase that purity is the force. What is it? Books are the basis, purity is the force, utility is the principle, preaching is the essence. Yeah. So purity is the force. And this force of purity, it's strong enough to break through any obstacles that Maya puts forth. And this is, like I said, practically seen in the example of our own Srila Prabhupada. And challenges, they're actually good. They're purifying. Like whenever anyone has a bad day on Sankirtan, Vijay says it's one of those purifying days. And Prabhupada, he was always welcoming challenges, and he was encouraging devotees to always push the boundaries. Like he said, my disease is that I can't think small. In a letter to Karandar, I'll just read a small excerpt. Prabhupada, he says, our leaders shall be careful not to kill the spirit of enthusiastic service, which is individual and spontaneous and voluntary. They should try always to generate some atmosphere of fresh challenge to the devotees, so that they will agree enthusiastically to rise and meet it. That is the art of management, to draw out spontaneous loving spirit of sacrificing some energy for Krishna. So challenges, they're good because they impel us to to rise up to meet them. They bring out enthusiasm, and they bring out this sacrifice for Krishna. We have to sacrifice when there's challenges. We have to sacrifice ourselves. And when a devotee is faced with challenges, he becomes absorbed in prayer to his spiritual master, and he becomes absorbed in prayer to Krishna. And like Queen Kunti, she's praying for calamities to come, because when calamity comes, she gets the darshan of Krishna. She gets to pray to Krishna. She gets the darshan of Krishna. And and yeah, Krishna's not limited. Prabhupada always says, Krishna's not a poor man. Krishna can fulfill whatever desires the devotee has, as long as he has the determination to do the work for it. Like there's this verse, Mukam kroti vachalam pangam lagai tegarim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. I guess what I heard was the original Sanskrit, the original last line is Paramananda Madhava. And so it's saying that by the mercy of Krishna, even a lame man can move mountains. And so there's no reason to think small in terms of spreading Krishna consciousness, in terms of any service in Krishna consciousness. But this verse specifically is regarding preaching. There's no reason that we should think small. And like I said, Prabhupada never thought small. Prabhupada was extremely bold in everything he did. Like when the devotees, I think they were buying the Fisher Mansion in Detroit, and anyway, it was very beautiful, very expensive property. And Prabhupada, when they were taking the tour, and Prabhupada says to the owner, he says, we're monks, we're ascetics, and we're engaged in preaching activity. And I think you should donate this property to us. And it's like a super opulent mansion, and the guy was obviously taken aback, and he didn't do it, but I think they still got a super low price for it. Prabhupada was really bold. He was super bold, and also in sending devotees, he sent Tamal Krishna Goswami to China, the communist country. He sent devotees to Russia, which is also a communist country. He went himself to Russia. Yeah, he went himself to Russia with devotees. And what was the result? The result was that Krishna consciousness spread all over the world. So Prabhupada thought big, and he did big. And so there's no reason that we should think small. Oh yeah, and then there's another one where one devotee asked, I think it was Brahmananda. Brahmananda asked, he asked Prabhupada, he said, well, Prabhupada, where are you going to go next? After this life. Prabhupada says, I think I'd like to preach in the hellish planets. So, yeah, Prabhupada, he was a very bold person. He had very lofty plans for the Krishna consciousness movement. And so if we're bold, if we also make lofty plans for the Krishna consciousness movement, then Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, they'll reciprocate with that. And to the extent that we have that, because that boldness, it's a symptom of determination. And so if we have that determination, then tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Then Krishna will give us the intelligence and also the mercy by which we can execute and manifest these lofty plans. And so if we just shoot for the moon, they say, shoot for the moon, then Krishna he'll reciprocate with that. So it's everybody's duty to spread Krishna consciousness, and we should follow the example of Srila Prabhupada in being very bold, in being very determined, and not letting Maya, in whatever form, stop the activities of the preaching movement. So that's all I have for now. Are there any questions or?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. We have one in-house question, so perhaps after that.
Yes, I can wait. No
Okay,
problem.
So thank you so much for the class.
Sure.
I have a question about the Bharata Varsha.
Okay.
Are there any particular reasons to why it was chosen by Krishna to be the place for his pastimes?
Well, my understanding is that, there's a lot of rivers there. Well, my understanding is that the people there are naturally pious. Maybe Dravida Prabhu has a better understanding.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, there's
You have the local Vrindavan there. That's
Yeah.
a replica of the original local Vrindavan.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like, well, what do we got down here on the earth? What's the best place for me to? Yeah, I think he planned it. It was already. In other words, the earth was created, and there was a.
That just happened to be the specific geographical location that because that Gokula Vrindavan meant. Okay.
So it was ready and waiting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vrindavan could have been anywhere.
Yeah.
And one more question about, in the last sentence, it says, preaching this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. So what does it mean, the cult, in your understanding? Why do we say the cult?
Yeah, it means culture, but it also could just mean group. It doesn't necessarily mean like we're, brainwashing people or kidnapping. Not necessarily. Yeah. No human sacrifices, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Tyler Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful discussion about Sankirtan.
Chai.
And yesterday we went on Sankirtan, and
did.
it was a difficult day.
It was.
Unnamed college campus nearby,
Yeah.
which made me think about something Vijay would say, that no's are good.
Yeah.
No's are good, implying, that doesn't even imply, he's telling you no's are good.
Yeah.
Deva Vrata, who is a great mentor to us on Sankirtan,
Yeah.
when we talked to him about the day we were having, his message said, difficult days like this are good because they make you tough.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about that aspect. Like, why do we need to be tough on Sankirtan? Why is that good? And why are no's good?
Well, it's because Sankirtan's tough, because the world's tough. People aren't really interested in Krishna consciousness all that much. And so if we become disturbed by people's lack of interest in Krishna consciousness, and we're not going, and then we'll be discouraged. And if we're discouraged, then the preaching activities will stop. So we have to be tough. We have to tolerate all the, we have to tolerate the no's. Makes you stronger in Krishna consciousness too, because like I said, you become absorbed in prayer, or at least one should become absorbed in prayer, because one should understand that it's not by just my effort that I'm going to, get a lot of books out or whatever kind of preaching activity you're doing. So yeah, it's a devotional service. It's a descending process. We have to. There's the aspect of our effort, sure, but ultimately it's the desire of the Lord Krishna's in control. Krishna's always in control. He's in control. He's the Paramatma within everybody's heart. So he's the one who's inspiring people to take books. It's not that we're like convincing them by our logic or whatever. So yeah, and no's are good because one, it's purifying because it humbles us, and like I said, also we become absorbed in prayer, and also just I would say just that it's humbling, and it helps develop tolerance too. Yeah, humility and tolerance. So those things. Anything else in here? Okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, I think we're ready for your question.
Yes. Your name is Amogha, Lila, no?
That's my name, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. If I may say it, I liked it when you spoke about thinking big. And if we go for thinking big, Krishna will help us. Prabhu, the quote, in relation to my question, the quote from the purport is, quote, throughout the world, there is no question of Bhagavat Bhakti or devotional service, but the people of Bharatvarsh can easily understand the devotional service of the Lord, end quote. So, Prabhu, my question is, why is it that the material world is a place, is characteristically a place where devotional service is very rare to be found?
Okay, well, you could liken it to a prison. If you go to a prison, you should not expect to find law and order, because the people in the prison, they're there because they've violated law and order. And so similarly, in the material world, you should not expect to find people who are interested in devotional service, because the people who are here because they weren't interested in devotional service. So that's what I would say to that. Is that a satisfying answer, Prabhu?
Oh, better than satisfying. Again, spectacular answer to my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Bhakti Daniel.
Thank you, Amogha Prabhu. My question is relating to Prabhupada's struggles and him becoming a great leader. How does one actually cultivate not the qualities like as a pure devotee, well, getting those qualities, but also being as a leader, and how can we cultivate in ourselves and practice those?
Well, to be a leader, you have to be Krishna conscious, because you have to be Krishna conscious, because if you're going to be leading people in Krishna consciousness, you have to yourself be Krishna conscious. And you do this by associating with those who have those qualities, who have qualities of, Krishna consciousness and of leadership as well. And you take guidance from them, and you understand that you're a servant. And maybe somebody else has a more thorough. Yeah, you follow the other leaders. Yeah. Yeah. Going once. Going twice. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.